Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video may contain explicit descriptions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised as this content may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello, and we're back. Back journeying deep into the bowels of the politics of Woody Creek, Colorado in the early 1970s with one Dr. Hunter S. Thompson in the Kingdom of Fear. So, let us continue.
The old Jerome was jammed from wall to fading flowered wall with partisan strugglers, both full freak and moderate freak. And the press from London and LA and well-wishers and many people were rip-smashed and optimistic.
Yeah, I imagine, could you imagine somebody having an affinity for a particular thing, say hash, marijuana, mescaline, LSD, psilocybin, something like that, and getting to cover something at Hunter S. Thompson's house? That's almost a dream come true.
But some knew better. Indeed. And the solemn, smoke-filled hideaway for those who really knew better was room number 1, about 200 feet down the crowded hallway from the Vortex Madness in Parlor B.
The Vortex. I've always loved that word, vortex. It's just a great word, the symbology. Like a tornadic vortex or a hurricane's vortex. You know, it just has that foreboding to it.
It was Oscar Acosta's room. He had been there for 2 weeks, dealing with one crisis after another, and rarely sleeping in his complex, triple-pronged role of old friend, bodyguard, and emergency legal advisor to what the New York Times called the most bizarre political campaign on the American scene today.
The thing is, Acosta is also the basis or the inspiration for the Dr. Gonzo character in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That man is... I could do 120-hour videos on the ins and outs of Acosta's life. He was different. And technically, biologically, he was a human being. But it is. If you want to know more about him, look him up on Google. Go to Google and do a Google search for him, and you will be amazed of what he did. Probably freaked out, grossed out, and a few other things.
But the Timesman didn't know the half of it. He had come to town early in October, long before the campaign turned so crazy and vicious that the New York Times couldn't possibly have told the real story. By the time Acosta arrived, the Aspen political scene looked like some drug-addled mafia parody of a gang war scene from The Godfather.
And the thing is see, that is the thing. That's the thing. His word, his eloquent way of putting the right words in the right order to give you this very imaginative, huge, thing. It's great that, that his talent for doing that is just awesome.
And a week before the election, we actually went to the Mattresses. Oscar, a prominent Chicano civil rights lawyer from Los Angeles, Stopped in Aspen before a Denver visit with his client Corky Gonzalez, the Chicano's answer to Huey Newton, or maybe H. Rap Brown in the old days. In mid-November, Corky was scheduled to go on trial in L.A. on dubious charges of...
Yeah, Acosta, from what I understand, if he wouldn't have disappeared, probably would be, well, his lifestyle probably would have taken him out before 2024, but maybe not. I don't know. Keith Richards is still kicking pretty good, but I don't know. He could. I mean, he was in his day, he was a fairly powerful civil rights lawyer.
Carrying a deadly weapon during the East Los Angeles riot the previous August, which resulted in the murder of Ruben Salazar by an L.A. County Sheriff's deputy. Oscar would be the defense attorney in that trial, but in mid-October he found himself in Colorado with not much else to do, so he decided to stop by his old home in Aspen to see what the honky gabachos were up to.
I like that. Gabachos. One of these days I may ask my wife if that actually has a literal translation or if it's just a generic insult, kind of like chupeta or some of the other words in Spanish that are least that are insults, but they don't have a direct translation in English.
And the nightmare scene that he found here seemed to convince him that white middle-class America was truly beyond redemption.
And you know what? Still isn't.
On election night, Oscar's small room in the Jerome filled quickly with people, both locals and outsiders, who shared his dreary conviction that this Aspen election had serious implications in the context of national politics.
It did. Even though it ended the way it did, Thompson's showing in the election should have never, ever been as strong as it was. And it's a parallel to when Beto O'Rourke went up against Cruz. Everyone knew Cruz was going to win the Senate seat for Texas, but Beto should have never, ever been as close as he did. He should have never finished. Cruz should have taken it by 85 points, but he took it by a cunt hair. Allred this year, I am pretty sure personally that Allred's going to lose to Cruz, but it's going to be an even thinner hair than his Beto's loss to Cruz 6 years ago. So that we'll wait and see on that. But none of this could have or would have been imaginable if it wouldn't have been for Thompson's efforts in this election.
From the very beginning, it had been a strange and unlikely test case. But toward the end, when it looked like a radical drug candidate might actually win a head-on clash with the Agnew people, the Aspen campaign suddenly assumed national importance as a sort of accidental trial balloon that might, if it worked, be tremendously significant.
Yes. Even though, like I said, this one election for a local sheriff in Colorado has impacted elections since then. If you look at all the elections that were touted as supposed to have been blowouts that weren't, thank Mr. Thompson for it.
Especially to the angry legions of new left radical types who insisted on good evidence that there was no longer any point in trying to achieve anything within the system.
And Thompson kind of proved that you can work the system. You can't fight it. You can't break the rules of the system because the system put the rules in place for a reason. But you can manipulate them, twist them, bend them, and make them work for you as long as you don't break them or fight them. There's the two rules. Don't break the system. Don't fight the system. Or don't break the rules of the system. You can use the rules the system puts in place against the system to break the system, but you can't break the rules. It's weird. It's kind of a paradox wrapped within an enigma placed in a puzzle.
But obviously, if an essentially Republican town like Aspen could elect a sheriff running on a radical freak power platform, then the vote might still be a viable tool. And it might still be possible to alter the mean, fascist drift of this nation without burning it down in the process.
Well, yeah, which is a good idea all the way up to 2016.
This was the strange possibility that had brought Dave Megacy out of San Francisco. Megacy, a former linebacker for the St. Louis Cardinals, had recently abandoned pro football and plunged into radical politics.
I wonder where the Cardinals are now. They've moved around like a bunch of the teams in the NFL, starting in like the late 80s, early 90s. They just started hopping around the country. And we'll go ahead and call this here. We'll come back to the next video and pick up. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope everyone's having fun. So until next time, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?